There's no music if you have no body to play it with, so take care of your body first.
You getting into the gym and you lifting weights and working on muscles it's physical therapy for the benefit of your playing.
The truth is, nothing works like just taking care of the simple stuff. Diet, exercise, and sleep. Take care of that and you'll be fine.
Join us as two musicians and fitness coaches discuss strength, wellness, and fitness in relation to musicians, artists, and performance.
I don't get that from my American clients. I find people more receptive. Maybe you're more perhaps further along, just as you are in terms of athlete training. Perhaps you're further along in terms of artist training. I certainly think in my field, the most technically proficient singers come from the US at the moment. You hear a 24-year-old, 25-year-old baritone singing in Juilliard or whatever, and they'll be just as good as a 32-year-old British singer, or maybe even more technically proficient. There's something wonderful going on in the teaching in the States at the moment, and perhaps I wonder if the two things are related: the openness to new ideas, trying new things, not being stale in your approach, might be part of the reason.
We've had a lot of conversations about that lately. It is a big question because we feel like we are stale over here.
Right.
Okay.
It's interesting to hear that from your perspective, because we're like, what is it that Lee said? She said, that we have this modality that it's the teacher down and you just sit there and listen to whatever the teacher says and you do whatever the teacher says. You don't ask questions. The teacher doesn't ask you questions. You just do.
Huh.
And there is that modality to what we learn here in the US. So it's interesting to hear that from the other side of the pond, so to speak.
Yeah.
I have articulated that to people in the US before, and they've given me that same response. That they actually feel that they are stale. So obviously, maybe I've just been lucky with the people I happen to have worked with. And once again, I know I've said it like 3 times now, but just so I don't want to annoy anyone or offend anyone. I probably offended a bunch of people by saying those things. If I say, if I'm saying these things and you go, well, that's not me, then it's probably not you. Like I say, yeah. I'm speaking generally, not universally. And probably everyone listening to this podcast doesn't fall in the category that I'm sort of criticizing a little bit. You're probably listening to this podcast because you're interested and open to ideas and things. So
no
worries.
I don't think, because we have to talk about the big picture, right? Or just talking about the US musical system. We're talking about 50 states with dramatically different cultures.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
And what's going on in Puerto Rico and Guam? Nobody has any idea.
No.
They're territories. We don't even know what territories are.
Right.
Like, let's be real about this.
Sure.
So we're always speaking on a global,
on a generalized
level.
Yeah. Exactly. So I have a couple of nutritionalistic specific questions, if that's okay, because I've had some people ask some things. Dry mouth is one of these things. Beta blockers, another one of these things. And I know this might get outside your scope of practice, and that's fine. If you defer to that, that's totally okay. Another is, I had somebody ask the other day about alcohol and how that affects us as performers. So those 3 things I think are, and not just in the classical world, not the operatic world, the classical world, but also in the broader spectrum of us as musicians. You think about rock musicians, blues musicians, touring musicians. You think of the touring lifestyle, you get drugs and alcohol, right?
Sure.
You think of horrible nutritional habits. You're just like eating at whatever cafe you stop at or fast food or whatever. And I think that is something, like, I'm dealing with people here in Nashville, Tennessee, that are on the road consistently. They don't know what to eat when they're on a tour bus and they stop. they don't know what a good choice is.
Sure.
And that happens day after day after day after day. They may or may not have good things on the tour bus with them. They may or may not know. I mean, and we talked about this with Vinny a little bit, you know, like sometimes you have time to get off the tour bus and you go ride your bike and go hike and go whatever. Other times you are there. And the culture is you sit around and drink or do drugs or whatever. I mean, and this is a culture that is around musicians that I would love to either address or dispel or both, you know. So
sure.
From where you're sitting, I don't even know where to start with that, but like there's all of those things that have come at me in the last 2 weeks. Those have come at me. And I think people, I don't think anybody knew we were going to be talking to you, but I've had those questions fielded to me. So if you have any insight, I think people would like to know.
Well, a lot. I mean, obviously a lot in there. I'm just going to move positions so I can plug my laptop in. Sorry, I hope that's okay. I cleaned my house. Sorry. So you're in Nashville.
I am. Jen is in Tallahassee, Florida.
Wonderful. I want to come visit. It's a part of the world I've never had. We should have all of our guests come visit us here in Nashville, I think. Don't you think, Jen? It's just a part of the world I'd love to. I think I romanticize that part of the States. I've only been to, New York, Boston, Chicago. I mean, wonderful cities, obviously. Houston, I've been to. But yeah, it's just a part of the world that just sounds so amazing, so different to my experience. Anyway.
It was very different 7 years ago. Now it's very commercialized, but that's another story for another time. So
maybe you've just sold me on going on a tour bus.
Sooner rather than later, I'll tell you that. Before everybody sells everything out and Music Row is gone. And well, that's another story for another time.
Sure. In terms of, so a lot in what you brought up. So look, I think it's fairly clear if somebody is able to perform optimally or whatever, well enough on a diet of cigarettes, vodka, and cocaine or whatever, they're doing so despite that diet, despite the lifestyle habits, not because of it. I realize there can be a bit of banter about, oh, maybe, it's the rock and roll lifestyle, perhaps culturally, sure, but not physiologically. Now, psychologically, there is some evidence that certain drugs, let's say, open up avenues of creativity that can be valuable. I know a lot of writers, let's say, who will write when they're under the influence of something. There is some. No, I'm not advocating for the use of psychedelics or marijuana or whatever, but it's there is some evidence that this is actually the case. So there may be something in there in terms of a altered cognitive experience that may play into creative processes. Who knows? It's not my area, but just to mention that. In terms of alcohol specifically, once again, alcohol is, I realize it's a food in that it's processed like a food sort of and has calories, but obviously it's a drug. We know that it doesn't take much for it to really cause harm to the.
But let me stop you there, because I think a lot of people don't actually know this.
Sure.
I want to say, like, we think this. Mm-hmm. I have been astounded lately at the amount of people I have talked to that don't know certain things, like whether a food is a vegetable or like not a vegetable,
sure.
Or that alcohol is actually harmful. So if we can approach this from a point of view of we don't know anything, I think that might even be more helpful, because I had somebody reach out to me, actually an oboist who was concerned about her drinking. And I'm not going to mention any names and where, it doesn't matter. The point is, she's like, I'm concerned. I go out with my friends and I'm wondering, how does that impact my oboe playing? How does that going to impact me when I rehearse, when I audition? And I know that I have been in those similar situations where it's like, I wonder if a drink would calm me down before an audition or if it would hinder me, and so I don't want to get too far down that path, but it's like, these are things that people in the industry are dealing with, and maybe no one's talking about from a nutritional standpoint. Maybe nobody's ever said anything to them about it.
Interestingly, I once again, not mentioning any names, but I was doing a run of performances of the opera La Boheme with a tenor who was magnificent. I mean, he was a glorious singer who would have a pint of beer before every performance, which I thought very strange, because a pint of beer is half a liter of beer. So it doesn't have no effect on the body. But he said, no, it calms me down, it makes me relax. Sure. I mean, in terms of health outcomes or relationship with certain diseases, let's say heart disease being an obvious one, alcohol tends to follow what we call like a tick curve. So if, having a glass of wine a day, for example, or maybe even 2, depending on your size or whatever, might reduce your risk of heart disease a little bit. But then as soon as you up it to 3 glasses of wine a day, 4 glasses of wine a day, the risk that all that benefit is negated and your risk goes through the roof, exponentially through the roof. Mm-hmm. We used to think that maybe, like particularly in wine, the relationship with wine and heart disease risk, there may be certain properties of wine that specifically mitigated against heart disease, maybe certain antioxidants. Turns out this is probably not the case. The antioxidants in wine, yes, they're present, but it seems that in order to get the benefit, you need something like 4,000 times the amount that you tend to find in your average glass of wine. So you're not even in the ballpark of the dosage needed to get any benefit. So it turns out that the benefit is likely from just chilling out a little bit, being relaxed enough, chill enough to say, hey, do you know what? I'm going to have a glass of wine tonight when I watch Grey's Anatomy. I don't know. I'm showing my age. I don't know what people watch these days. Tiger King. Okay. I have no idea. I have a young child. I have no idea. I don't watch TV anymore. Or glass of wine with dinner, whatever. It's not even necessarily anything the alcohol is doing, although the alcohol may make you feel relaxed. It's more just being a bit chill, an overly restrictive lifestyle, the stress and neurosis that often accompanies that can also be detrimental to health in the long term. Stress is always a significant factor, as some would say as important as nutrition and exercise. Of course, they're all related. Mm-hmm. So in that vein, maybe a rock star, there's a stress associated with performing in every night, pressure, having to be whatever, a sex symbol, whatever pressures rock stars are facing. As an opera singer, I've never had
I don't know, I'm not Adam Levine. I don't know. Right.
Maybe there is some relationship between that, the need for a bit of alcohol and that sort of stress. But once again, it's unlikely to translate to a bottle of vodka a night. A couple of drinks might lead to some benefit. In terms of eating on the road, which is the other thing that you brought up, I'm pretty strongly of the opinion now that in a metabolically healthy individual and a psychologically healthy individual, obviously, I'm not talking about anyone with some metabolic disease or any sort of psychological eating pattern, disordered eating pattern. I'm pretty firmly of the opinion that skipping an unhealthy meal is better than consuming an unhealthy meal. This idea of all there was, I was at the airport and all there was McDonald's, so I had to eat it. I don't think it's true.
Oh,
excuse me. I'm just going to grab a glass of water. I keep coughing. Here I'm talking about
brilliant
vocal health.
He's saying though. What you're saying. Nobody has said that. I have never heard that in the musician circle.
It really,
especially here in Nashville, where like if any time I go, and now I've been in Arizona, in Phoenix, where Jen is from, and same with, you know, Tallahassee, same situation. Like there's always musicians, like you can see the guitarists on the back, like you see it all the time, but like that's not with my clients. It's always the former, never the latter. It's like, okay, I had to have something. Well, you didn't pack anything with you? So you had to have that?
Once again, general, not universal, but in the Western world, we don't really experience true hunger. You know, most of the time we have some sort of food freely available at arm's reach at all times. I realize that's not the case for everyone, but generally speaking, in the Western world, we're lucky, we're privileged enough to be in this scenario. When we say, oh, I had to have something, what we're normally talking about is a surge of the hormone ghrelin, which makes you hungry. It's a transient hormone in the bloodstream, just like anything else, adrenaline, whatever. You know, a crude example a colleague of mine uses is like, you know, you don't have to have sex every time you feel randy. We say randy in the UK. Do you say randy in the US? Do you know what I mean?
Often enough that we know what it means.
Yeah, we recognize it in that context. You know, sometimes you feel a surge of, you know, libido, shall we say, but we just go, it'll pass. You know, you might be at whatever, at work, you know, so we recognize the ability to notice these transient feelings and dispel them in other contexts. But for some reason, culturally, we've decided that with food, we are out of control of our experience here. And if you feel a slight creeping up of ghrelin in your bloodstream, you must reach for the closest fried chicken. Otherwise, what? What's the consequence? Well, what would happen is you'd feel a bit hungry, and 10 minutes later, you'd forget about it. That's what would happen. In the context of a normal eating pattern and lifestyle, you would just forget about it. The hormone would go away. Your body would go, I guess we're not eating. It would release a bit of glucose from your liver, from your muscles, to give you a bit of burst of energy. If you're metabolically healthy, you'll start to burn body fat as fuel. That's one of the reasons body fat is there, to give us energy in the context of caloric scarcity. And you just get on with your day. And you would avoid eating the fried chicken that would give you little value other than a bit of protein. The value of being metabolically healthy, and let me take a step back. A lot of the times we eat, most of the time we eat, I would say, it's cultural. We eat breakfast because, I don't know, you eat breakfast. That's what we do. You eat lunch because, I don't know, that's what we do. We eat dinner. You know, it's social, it's cultural. We mentioned earlier, we eat to celebrate. We eat to commiserate. We eat for all sorts of reasons that have nothing to do with the physiological need to eat. So the reason I say this is I'm not trying to get people to starve themselves, but once you recognize this and get your body into a state of metabolic flexibility, where if you don't eat, your body just goes, oh, okay, I'm not, a 1% body fat guy, but, I'm relatively lean, probably 14-15% in the healthy body weight range. I have hundreds of thousands of calories of stored energy on my body. In terms of body fat, these days and days and days and days of calories that I can utilize in conditions of caloric scarcity. If you become metabolically flexible, your body recognizes, okay, I'm not eating now, so I just tap into those stores. it's a wonderfully liberating experience. There's a certain mindfulness that comes with it. You recognize, oh, I'm feeling hungry, but it's going to pass in 10 minutes, rather than being a slave to it. And of course, it stops you from this, I would say, unhelpful idea of, oh, well, I was at the train station, and what do you do at the train station? Well, you grab something to eat, but all they had was junk food that made me feel sick. Well, don't eat it. Don't eat it. Eat later. There'll be food available at some point. We're not on a desert island here. This is I think.
I don't think we are
seldom,
okay with the idea of being hungry. That being hungry is okay.
Yeah,
that comes into psychology a little bit, maybe.
Psychology, I think, also marketing. You go to any venue now, and it's just eat this, consume. A consumption mentality is certainly in our culture at the moment, whether we're consuming food or entertainment or social media or each other's energy or whatever it is. Consumption is the sort of name of the game at the moment. At the moment, the main one is attention consumption. Who's getting your attention? Is it YouTube? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Is it so we're not okay with it. And also and then also there's some lies being told. People go, if I skip lunch, I'll go into starvation mode and my body will wither and decay. Do you know what I mean? People sort of, when I ask, I think I would invite you to try it. When somebody expresses this sentiment, get them to express it out loud. And before they even get to the end of the second sentence, they'll sort of realize how ridiculous it sounds, but it's ingrained. So we don't think it, we just experience it and go, oh no, I better grab whatever, chocolate bar, is it really to be believed that if you're going on a flight from, I don't know the flight times, from New York to, do you fly to Philadelphia from New York? No, it's a train journey, isn't it?
No, just say a 4-hour flight.
You're going on a 4-hour flight. It's 9 a.m. You've not had breakfast. Is it really to be believed? So you could probably eat lunch at 2 p.m. Is it really to be believed that eating whatever, unhealthy, trans fats, very little nutritional value, tons of sugar meal is going to be better for you than just eating a little bit more healthy food later to compensate for the fact that you missed breakfast? I mean, I think my personal experience and all the evidence points to the reality that just wait.
So I have a little bit of an anecdote with this, and I don't want to go too far off base.
Sure.
Like I said, it's anecdotal, so you can tell me what your thoughts are on this from the nutrition perspective.
Sure.
But when we were working from home full time, I'll just say flat out, I've got issues with some hypoglycemia.
Okay.
So I can be perfectly fine, and then I get that hunger signal, and if it's not addressed, like, okay, well, you're going to get dizzy, and if it doesn't get fixed quickly enough, you're going down, So very scary. And it was like, okay, I know some people are like, oh, skip this meal, skip that meal, you'll lose weight, but it was not anything that
Not for everybody.
felt able to do. But when we were doing that work from home thing, we started playing with, there's 10-minute walks kind of deal, taking more breaks because we were able to. So you're not in an office where there's like the social stigma if you leave. So what I found was, okay, I start feeling hungry. Okay, get up, half a glass of water, and lap around the block. Take me 5-10 minutes maximum, and that hunger would go away. And kind of over that time, I would learn to differentiate between, okay, this is the danger, you're going to pass out hunger, and no, this is your body's telling you you're hungry because you're bored out of your mind and you need to move. Like you've been sitting too long, So I'm not sure. I feel like that's tied into what you were talking about. but even for somebody who's got that kind of like scary, no, you need to be ready to eat whenever. Like I was able to find that differentiation between, I don't need it right now. I'm gonna be okay.
Yeah, it's I mean, a wonderful point. I'm so sorry if I didn't say it. If I didn't, I should have started with it. Obviously,
okay.
everything I just said is in the absence of some sort of pathology.
Yeah, and you did say that.
Oh, I just said that. Oh, great.
Yeah.
And but then also, obviously, disordered eating is an issue also. So obviously, in that context, nothing of what I just said is applicable. Obviously, look after yourself in that context. But that's really interesting. I mean, it's that you were able to differentiate the different types of hunger. I mean, that's cool. How did you feel? I mean, was that empowering? Was that?
Yeah, it was good. I need to get back to it. Going back to the office has messed me up big time, but because it's easy to revert, like, oh, well, I really should stay at my desk. I really shouldn't. Like, you can go take a lap. It's okay. But the further away I get from that habit, the harder it is for me to determine now. But at the time, it was really just, it became starkly obvious, and it was nice because I could actually try intermittent fasting for the first time. I'd never done that before because it was too dangerous quotes.
Sure.
And I ended up really liking that.
And oh well, me too. And this is just me. And everyone's different. But yeah, I feel so much better if I do at least a sort of 15, 16 hour fast. I tend not to eat until 1 p.m., 2 p.m. And I'll get up and run or go and work out or go and train jujitsu or whatever for like 2 hours. Feel great. Come home. And when I was more of a gym bro, you got to eat your protein after your workout. No, I'm stronger now at 37 than I was at 27, doing things this way. And it's just, for me, I mean, this nice thing about it is that the problem with intermittent fasting is it's very hard to market because it's free. It's very hard to make money out of it. Unless you write a book about intermittent fasting and everyone buys it. How do you make money off, I don't know, you make an app that helps people fast? It's very hard to monetize.
Before you go too far with that, do you know who Martin Berkham is?
I don't know.
Okay, so I think he's the OG of this. He started this back in like 2002.
Okay.
It's been a long minute. So if you and of course, I'm sure if I said his website, it'd be wrong at this point. But Martin Berkham, he's a Swedish guy, I think. And he would do this whole thing where he did this whole intermittent fasting thing, but then he'd sit down and eat an entire cheesecake, and the man had 6% body fat. So he was just messing with people at that point. He's like, look what I can do. But he found a way to monetize it, but I don't know how well he monetized it if here we are 20 years later and nobody knows who he is. But I think he was the OG of the whole thing. And it's brilliant. Lean Gains is his with the whole thing. Lean Gains, I think.
Okay. Oh, I'll look into it. I mean, I find that personally very satisfying. Sometimes I just won't eat till dinner, and then I just get to, obviously I'm not eating junk food, but I can eat just a huge, wonderful, satisfying meal, not worry about how big it is, but then also, interestingly, in that context, I won't eat junk food because I know, well, look, I've not eaten today, so I do need some nutrient density in this meal. It shouldn't just be empty calories. So this is some multiple benefits that flow from it. But actually, Angela, not to contradict you, I'm going to look into this. Martin Birkin?
Yeah,
I've just
look up
Googled
leangains.com. I think that's what if it's still around.
But of course, fasting certainly didn't begin in 2002. I mean, it's Ramadan at the moment, right? And most people of the Islamic faith are fasting from sun up to sundown, and they've been doing so for 800 years. Sorry, that might be wrong. Several hundred years. Fasting, is a protocol in most religions. Christians, Catholics will fast at Lent in some manner. It might be abstaining from some sort of pleasure, or it might actually be fasting, not eating. this is fairly ancient wisdom, the benefits of abstaining from food. It isn't, obviously there's huge physiological benefits that can flow from it. We know it can improve cellular autophagy, the replacement of dying and old cells, which is obviously wonderful. It can reduce levels of inflammation. Obviously, it stops you from becoming overweight. It's really great for insulin sensitivity, which is obviously really important. But also, delayed gratification, just this idea of abstaining now for greater gain later, is a fundamentally important part of being just an adult human being. And it's something I think we're not valuing enough at the moment. It's when they're testing the development of children, it's the ability to recognize delayed gratification in their development. Their ability to sort of do that shows a huge significant cognitive development in the child. And it seems that our culture is not encouraging adults to do that at the moment in many aspects. And I think to do a daily fast or a couple of times a week fast helps you to sort of stretch those muscles, those delayed gratification muscles, to work on them, because you recognize, food, if you don't eat till dinner time and then you eat your favorite, for me, it'd probably be like steak and vegetables or something. That food tastes amazing. It tastes so much better than when you're just eating what you want at any time. Have you ever had, you go away on holiday for a week to a place that is catered or whatever, and you just eat whatever you want for a week, the food stops tasting good. You become desensitized to it quickly. It's in the abstaining that makes it all the more valuable, all the more pleasurable.
And there's nothing wrong with food being pleasurable. I would like to put that out to the fitness community, that food is okay to taste good. Doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
When was the last time you had a pork belly? Oh my gosh. It's not something you want to eat every day, but if you don't ever allow yourself to enjoy that kind of thing, and if pork belly isn't your thing, what is your thing? But if you're not allowing yourself to have that, because it's always this, I cannot. And so putting that in the realm of musicians and how that affects our craft, if we're already on this path of, I have to practice this many hours a day, and now I can't eat this, and now I have it, and it doesn't work well with our craft. There has to be a beautiful marriage of, I love what I do and I enjoy what I eat because I'm taking care of myself. But I feel like so many times we do the opposite. I have to.
Huh. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
Maybe that's just me, but I have seen that from not just me, but I've seen it.
That's my experience too, is I can't take care of myself because I have to practice this many hours a day, and therefore I can't.
Yeah.
And I just have to eat whatever is available to me. I'm like, you're gonna practice more effectively if you feel good.
And I was just talking
they're not mutually exclusive. One assists the other. Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. I was just talking to a client of mine yesterday, and we were talking about he was off playing at the Grammys, and he was doing a really good job of charting his food in I think it was MyFitnessPal. And he goes, I didn't chart anything at all. I'm like, all right. It's not about the charting of your food. It's are you making choices that make you feel good on a regular basis, not just when you're out there doing your thing? Because I don't know how many times I've had a client tell me, well, this is not a normal day. No day is a normal day. Every day has got some, that's not normal. Oh, I had to do that. So I had to. No, they're all normal days. I don't care if you're on tour or not. It's par for the course for you. Over the course of a week or a month, So rant over.
Well, I'll always do with my clients, particularly on the first session, but often multiple times throughout the course of working with someone, a 24-hour recall. All right, let's go through everything you consumed yesterday. No judgment. There's never any judgment, of course. I'm there to help. I'm not there to criticize. It's just there. What did you do yesterday that we could maybe do a bit better tomorrow in line with your goals? It's that simple. But as soon as you bring it up, you get yesterday was, it was my birthday party, or whatever. I was really stressed. And even if you preamble it with, I absolutely am not here to judge you. Whatever you say, I've probably done worse, and I've certainly heard worse. Worse in inverted, in quotations. But once again, this idea of I find myself continuously falling back to this idea of a spectrum. We don't want to let the perfect be the enemy of the good. So just because you had to get your breakfast from Starbucks this morning, let's say, I know if I don't eat some breakfast in the morning, I can't function at work. Fine. Some people are like that. My wife's certainly like that, when she thinks I'm insane when I don't eat breakfast, because if she doesn't eat breakfast, she'll pass out on the floor of the kitchen, by 9:30 a.m. Some people like that. Fine. But let's say you didn't have time to make breakfast. You had to get something from Starbucks. It doesn't mean you have to go all out. Oh, well, I'm having Starbucks. Okay, give me 3 cheese croissant and a cookie. And, think of the spectrum. There's always a slightly better decision. When I say better, I mean more in line with your needs and goals. And there's always a worse option, and if I'm being, critical, if I'm being a bit harsh, quite a few of my clients, particularly at the moment, have very high levels of what I'd call self-efficacy. They're very critical of themselves, and they seem to respond quite well if I'm just very frank with them. So I'll often say something like, look, you're not a 5-year-old at a children's birthday party surrounded by cake and sweets. You're an adult in life surrounded by cake and sweets. Make the adult decisions. It doesn't mean you can't have cake, but, make adult decisions.
Do you really want the cake?
Maybe yes, maybe no.
Exactly.
You're not a slave to it. You're not a slave to marketing. You're not a slave to your hunger hormones. You're not a slave to whatever cultural idea is telling you need to consume right now. We can move past these things. I would say we can move above these things.
Yeah. I have one last question. And Jen, if you have anything to jump in, please do.
No.
Okay.
No, we talked about what I wanted to.
So, as performing artists, is there anything nutritionally that you see across the board with people you've worked with, or anything like that you would say, how do I phrase this? Either we need more of, or we need less of, or something to pay attention to that can directly impact our craft?
Sure. I'm going to have to frame it more specifically towards singers, unfortunately.
Please do. That's fine.
I do work with some non-singing musicians, but I tend to obviously the voice care center is mainly vocal artists, and obviously because I'm a singer. So look, sorry to be boring, but I may as well be honest. That trifecta: eat whole foods, mostly plants, not too much. If you do that, you're pretty much good. Secondly, believe it or not, hydration. Everyone thinks they drink enough water. Most people don't. When you actually measure it, most people don't. We're looking at about a milliliter. Sorry, I'm using metric. You can convert it. A milliliter. Oh, beautiful. A milliliter per calorie burned is the base. So if you are the average man, let's say, consuming about 2,500 calories, you want 2.5 liters a day of water. More is fine, but you definitely don't want less. Women tend to consume a little bit less, fewer calories, let's say 2,000 calories on average. So you want 2 liters of water a day. More is probably better, depending on how active you are and so forth. So that's the trifecta: fluid, an over-reliance on supplements. Talking about the pill and toxin bias. I think in my experience, Singers can be quite neurotic, and understandably
I was
so.
gonna ask about the, scarves and things.
Yeah,
I didn't want to get too much into it.
Yeah, well, if you're an opera singer getting paid per night, per performance, if you get a cold, you can lose tens of thousands of dollars worth of income. It's happened to me. If you miss 2 weeks of performances at the Metropolitan Opera, it's a significant amount of income. Which is why singers are neurotic. It makes perfect sense. Can be neurotic, sorry. An over-reliance on supplements tends to be a knee-jerk reaction to this. Generally speaking, there is no substantive benefit to megadosing on vitamin C, vitamin D, whatever it is, zinc, whatever supplements, pills and potions people take, echinacea. Avoiding deficiency is key. Avoiding deficiency, which you will get if you eat whole foods, mostly plants, not too much. But if your recommended daily intake of vitamin C today is 2,000 micrograms, there is no benefit to taking 6,000 micrograms in a sachet. Not really. You'll just be giving yourself sort of expensive, colorful urine. So that would be another point that I come across all the time. And I'm going to say, finally, a point on exercise. Once again, super intense HIIT and CrossFit workouts are very sexy. It's very sexy to flip a tire up a hill or do 30 push-ups followed by a 6-mile run carrying a toddler on your back, or whatever crazy things people do. Wonderful. These things are wonderful. I like intense workouts too. I compete in combat sports, and that's pretty intense. Generally speaking, much more important than your 3 times a week super intense workout is just daily ambulatory activity. Getting your 10,000 steps, just being active. Try not to sit for more than an hour at a time without getting up. In terms of longevity, health outcomes, as I hurtle towards middle age, these are things I tend to care about more than the amount of pull-ups I can do in a row. Surprise, surprise. Yes, of course, doing strength training and stuff is really important. Strength training is actually extremely important, but, being really fit, doing these showy things is great, and there's benefit. But the greatest health benefit in terms of overall health, longevity, the most serious diseases tend to come from just daily movement. Before you join a gym, before you join CrossFit, before you join yoga, whatever it is, make sure you're getting your 10,000 steps a day and every day. I don't mean 10,000 today and 2,000 tomorrow, 3,000 the next day. No, 10,000 a day. Make sure you keep generally active, walk to work, carry your kids, whatever it is. These things are what lead to the best outcomes. I think, is that enough? That's 4 things.
I think it's, yeah, absolutely.
It's about the consistency of it.
Yeah.
It's not the thing, it's the consistency of the thing more than the thing of itself.
Right.
And
Right.
it's like, when I tell my clients, when they're trying to find like the dietary weight loss thing that works for them, if they all, this is a very simplistic view of this, and feel free to argue with me, but basically it's like, you gotta find your groove. If keto works for some people, it is not going to work for other people. You got to find the one thing, if it's intermittent fasting, keto, or carb cycling, or if it fits your macros, or blah, 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 whatever it is. Maybe it's just writing it down. The important thing is the consistency of the thing, because then you will be able to tweak it, because then you will know yourself. And then you're going to know what you need. And then you're not just going what if somebody else said and some fad and something.
Yeah.
You're going to have a basis of knowledge. And that, I feel, is, my gosh, what is missing in the fitness industry. And so when musicians try to apply that to our craft, we're like, yeah, but the shake weight looks great. Is that going to help me with my like saxophone playing? Like, I'm not even going to address that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
yeah.
I think you addressed it.
I think so. And if just with that consistency thing and with the movement thing that you were talking about, Duncan, I mean, just to add this in, if you're looking at somebody to help you with fitness and strength and whatever, or some sort of gym or activity, and you tell them that you're starting by, well, I just want to walk 30 minutes a day, and they try to tell you that's not enough, run.
Sure.
That is not a good person.
Sure.
That is not somebody who has your best interests at heart, because it's like you two are saying, it's the consistency, it's the daily movement. And if that's how you establish your baseline, like, who's anybody else to say that's not okay?
Yeah. And it, of course, it doesn't have to be the end goal. You might walk 30 minutes a day and go, oh, maybe I'll walk 40. Oh, maybe I'll walk 20 minutes to the gym and then lift weights for 20 minutes. And you know what I mean? Like one can, of course, expand, but it, once again, it's that base of the pyramid thing versus the icing. I think in my experience, if somebody is sort of following some sort of idea or plan or whatever, and they're not getting where they want to be, adherence, consistency, and time. Coming full circle, you've got to stick with the plan day in and day out. Of course, there's going to be slip ups. Of course, there's going to be your birthday. Of course, there's going to be Friday night. Oh, I'm stressed and going out, whatever. Fine. But consistently in a real sense, 80-20, follow the plan 80% of the time, actually 80%. But for enough time, back to the start, health outcomes are measured in months, years, and decades. I know I know everyone wants to sell you a 14-day detox that'll help you lose 15 pounds and fix all your problems. It doesn't work that way. Years and decades is what we're looking at. And our brains don't like these time scales. We like shorter time scales, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Duncan, thank you for joining us today. It has been an incredible conversation. I feel like we could go down the rabbit hole for a lot more hours. We could be one of these Joe Rogan 5-hour podcasts, but none of us have that time today, so we're not going to do that. But this has been wonderful. You have really given us some really great information. Where can people find more about you and what you do if they have questions?
Sure. I mean, I love when people contact me just through my website, duncanrocknutrition.com. I am also on Instagram, DuncanRock_nutrition. I will admit, I'm not great at social media. I don't dislike social media. I'm inconsistent, shall we say. I need to find the consistency. So
you
sometimes
also have a newborn.
That's yes. I don't want to make excuses, but that is the reason. So what I'm saying is, if somebody sends me a message, often people send me a message on Instagram, and I might not get back for weeks because I just don't go on it. But I always check my email, and so if you go onto my website, duncanrocknutrition.com, there's a contact form. If anyone has any questions, I'm a nerd for this stuff. I love chatting about it. If anyone has anything specific, I realized today I focused a lot on the base, the generalities, but I do love getting specific as well when it's necessary. And of course, if anyone is interested in consultations and things, that's where you can reach me as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time. If you guys, if you liked what we are talking about today, or if you have any additional comments on the subject, you want to go ahead and put that down for us, send us some comments, share to your friends so that people know that musicians need nutrition too. And be sure to subscribe and give us a rating. That helps us out a lot. Angela, did I forget anything else?
I think that's it. Share, like, subscribe, review, all those things. So thank you, guys. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Hey, musicians, did you know that up to 90% of musicians will experience playing-related pain or injury over the course of their career? How many hushed conversations have you heard about a lingering, quote, shoulder pain, or a weird tingling in your fingers, or maybe low back pain, or a crampy weakness, or maybe you or your colleague just says, I just have to get through the gig, and you watch them pop Advil like candy, maybe flush it down with whiskey. How many times have we seen something like this? So many, right? Well, it's time we start talking about our struggles, our pain, our frustrations in a private space where we don't just complain and mobilize and blindly stretch, but we learn how to strengthen our muscles, our career successes, and build each other up. I've got a brand new program that combines all of these things, and I want you to be a part of it. It's a community, not a workout. It's a community with group coaching and great content that in 12 weeks will have you understanding more about your body, what you need, and how you work so you can avoid that career-threatening injury. The 3 things that musicians don't want. We don't want to be injured. We don't want to have a lack of stamina. And we don't want to be clueless. AKA, when you hurt, who do you go see? Just a quote doctor? Well, this program addresses all of those things. You're going to walk away with an immense knowledge of who to see. You're going to be empowered because you're going to know what to do should you ever get injured, or should you have a colleague that gets injured. You will be able to actually offer appropriate advice. You're also going to learn about the body and the anatomy as it relates to playing your instrument and your own anatomy. And then you're going to learn how to build not just your strength and endurance, but you're going to learn how to design your own corrective exercise program. So I hope you will join me in this new program. It's called the Music Strong Pilot Program, Job Security for Musicians.